Yeah, I also just called Commander Pizza. Be quiet.
Fire hoses! Hater thoughts! No, your eyes got bigger. I know you got. No, it's not. No, not right now. I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that.
Alright, no one should be talking.
Hey, Christian.
Alex, same with you.
Wait, where's the mini clip?
Excuse me? Christian, now you already have lost 1 point on your quiz.
Sorry, Bob.
So wait a minute. So it's in the, right next to it. I'm sorry, I just used 2 different, it's always going to be 2 different papers, but now I just I don't want them on your sheet. Because then you guys go and pick it. Please put your name at the top of the paper too, because it's going to be hard for me to pass them back.
Oh.
No.
Hey, he is a very strong word.
Who else is going to lose a point on their quiz? Yes. I don't know. On Friday. I would give you this one, but it's like my I was thinking. That's me.
Oh, so we're not going to scan it, right?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna keep them. Sorry, this is kind of the first time I'm doing this, so I'm trying to figure out processes of how to do this.
No, I never go 1 grade.
Oh yeah, just say you're in here. You have to do makeup. Have you done your makeup?
I need a shade.
Do that.
I need a shade. Are you standing here?
Alright, I'm taking some points off of other people's quickly.
It's cool. Is there a reference to...
Oh, let me turn it on. Come on, I'm saying.
Wait, are we gonna be able to share your grade?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Water? Go real quick.
This is really good. It's nasty, but it's good.
Okay, Michaela lost the point on her quiz. So Christian, Michaela, so far.
I messed up on number 1.
I can't wait.
You done? And we'll put it next to the pole.
So, when do you want me to start? Just on the 6th grade. Can I start now?
All right, well, it looks like people are wrapping up their quizzes and are starting their warm-up activity. I just want to introduce myself. I know I said hi the other day, but my name is Mr. Lichtenstein. I'm going to be helping out Miss Gold for the next 3 months, so I'm excited to get to know everybody. While you're working on your assignments, I'm going to do just a little individual icebreaker activity. So I'm going to ask you one-on-one to answer the following question. Pretend Mr. Obama invited you over for lunch today. You could have anything in the world. And you're going to give him a lesson on the railroads. What are you going to have for lunch? So just tell me your name and your favorite food. If I was going to go over to the White House, I'd say, Mr. Obama, we're going to eat Grotto's Pizza today. That's my favorite thing. So, everybody got it? Gabriel.
Alright, dim sum, like ping pong.
Yeah, but you're going to work on your assignments quietly. I'm going to ask you one-on-one. Okay? You're going to make me really hungry, and I'm going to try not to eat your
Hey guys, but you need to be quiet for me.
You need to keep working on your warm-ups. I'm going to ask you one-on-one.
You've already, got it.
So, Christian, what's your favorite food? Wait, put some healthy
I want to be here tomorrow. We're going to set up
Jemima.
where I come here.
Jemima, what's your favorite food? Everybody be quiet while you're working on your activity.
Hey.
Shrimp on bread? Kill. Spaghetti? What's your favorite food, Alex? Healthy stuff. Healthy stuff. Everybody working on their activity.
Alvin, get started please. Amina, get started.
I like making sprouts.
No, I'm sorry. Milat. Hamburger?
Can I change my
It's okay, you can change it to yours. Tell me later. So, Josiah.
Kimchi. I know. I love them.
Okay, guys, I don't need you to comment on every single person's favorite food.
Asparagus.
All right, so Griffin and Alvin, if I have to ask you guys to stop talking one more time, then you're going to be put out. Because I've asked you to stop talking 3 different times. And you continue our whispering, and I'm sitting right here watching you do it.
Just so everybody knows, I have the same expectations as Ms. Cole. So if anyone's talking out of turn, if they're disrupting the class, we're going to use the same warning system.
So you don't have to walk around.
Oh yeah, so you can't come in to do it. We're going to bed.
No, I'm going to have to skip something next week. I didn't get versions. They will send me. I didn't get the definition. So,
I like caramel macchiato.
that's a warm-up. That's quick food.
Really, really, really good.
Never had
Eggs and goat cheese. Eggs and goat cheese and balsamic
Mom, is that what you said? What's favorite food?
Hannah, you're
You like crab?
What? I don't know what.
Hannah? What's favorite food?
He's a
Do you like
leader
Kraft
of
mac and cheese?
North Africa.
Sorry.
And Nisha?
I love these.
And Nisa. What's your favorite food? Chicken Alfredo? Amina?
Spicy pasta with butter and red velvet.
Ooh, that sounds
Okay, hey, gentlemen up front.
Alvin.
Just I just asked you to stop talking and then you continue to start talking. So stop talking now.
Favorite food?
Okay, so now, the next time I ask you, did you hear, come here for a second. Come here, just like, come here.
Dustin. What's your favorite food? Bacon. Bacon? I love bacon. You working on this activity?
I would like to talk to you right now.
David, what's your favorite food? Ramen? I like ramen. Gabriel, you're doing a good job. You're already on number 6.
You understand what I'm talking about?
What's your favorite food?
I probably like all seafood.
Dim sum's really good. Chibueze, what's your favorite food?
You got it right.
Gazelle.
You got it right. No. Bacon, sushi, and rice.
Bacon, sushi, and rice. I've never had that before. Well, it sounds good. time, is anyone finished with the warm-up activity? Chibueze, you want to help me with the screen?
Wait,
Or do you have
we already
a-
have this on there.
Oh, you already have a sign. Okay, cool. So who's doing it today?
So close.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to mess up your. Alright, so give you maybe 2 more minutes to finish the warm-up activity and then we'll get started. How's it going? Yes. Liechtenstein. Liechtenstein. Probably Mr. L. If you want, that's easy. If you say it wrong a couple times, it's not gonna hurt my kids. It's alright. Doing okay? Get started? Chibueze, you finished? Good job.
Okay,
Almost done.
is there a stapler thing? Or, Mary, can you bring me that stapler?
Over here. Alright, well it looks like enough people are done with the warm-up that I'm going to get started. So today we're going to be talking about the railroad, the Transcontinental Railroad. As you can remember from last week, we started talking about the railroad. I can't remember, did we watch the video in this class?
No.
Okay, well we're going to talk
We
more.
watched 5 minutes of it and it's fine.
Yeah, we watched 5 minutes.
Western expansion.
Okay, first slide.
Yeah, it's like, not right now.
Copy or no?
Two classes.
Everybody, I need quiet, make sure you have your notebooks out. We're gonna get
Christian,
started.
very popcorn. So, who's clicking on it? During the class. During class.
Alright, so the Transcontinental Railroad. Does anybody know what Transcontinental means? Yes. What is Transcontinental? Sure. So basically, the Transcontinental Railroad went from the East Coast to the West Coast, connecting the United States. The Pacific Railway Act of 1862, it gave 2 companies, the Central Pacific Railroad and the Union Pacific Railroad, rights to construct these 2 competing railroads. The picture that you see there, that's where the 2 railroads met. That's Promontory Point, Utah. The Golden Spike, that's correct. Yeah. Does everyone have that recorded? Alright, so let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so just so you know, there's a lot of information on the slide. You're only responsible for knowing the words that are underlined. It's just like all your other presentation. I did.
Go
So,
back. Can you go back for a second? There you go. They're not done yet.
oh, they're not done.
What's your ID? What?
Raise your hand if you still need a little more time on the first slides. Everybody good? All right, Gabriel, next one. All right, so the person that I want to talk about first is Cornelius Vanderbilt. So Vanderbilt was the biggest railroad tycoon in the United States. Prior to being involved in railroads, he was involved in steamships in New York City. That's where he made his big fortune. He had like over 100 steamships running in the Hudson Bay, and so he was at the forefront of transportation. Early on, when the railroad industry was in its infancy, there were hundreds of railroads across the country. And what Vanderbilt was able to do is integrate those railroad systems. So what he did, he took over smaller companies and consolidated them into larger companies. So he was, I wouldn't, it's not a monopoly because there's other competing railroad owners at that time, but he was the biggest for sure. The important thing to take off this slide, time zone. So prior to the transcontinental railroads, their time zones in the United States were not synced up. Can anyone tell me a reason why it was important to have set time zones once we had a railroad? Destin.
So we get established like train schedules, and so the trains would run into each other.
Yeah, I mean that's important. And what about like with commerce? If you needed to get your goods in Chicago or in San Francisco from the East Coast, you need to know exactly what time they were going to be. Or you needed to know if I'm going to catch a train in Wichita, Kansas, I'm going to be able to get to the East Coast in time to catch a ferry or something like that. Mina.
So, did they have schedules, like?
They did have schedules, so that's why the creation of the 4 time zones was really important. So it synced up the schedules, and people, it didn't matter where you were in the country, you could do business, you could do commerce, you could catch a train for yourself, and you knew exactly what time you were going to get somewhere. They didn't need it before the Transcontinental Railroad, because I mean, you can remember when you learned about wagon trains, it would take you a month to get, or like half a year to get across the United States. So this time it was much quicker.
How long would it take to like get from New York to like California?
I don't know exactly. I would say less than a week, but I don't know. I'd need to, it'd be something to look up if anyone has free time. They want to see how long it would take. But instead of taking months, you could do it in like a week. All right, next slide. So time zones. Time zones is the big thing to take out of this in Vanderbilt. Gabriel. You got your book?
Never mind.
All right, so workers on the Transcontinental Railroad, the 2 biggest groups working on the railroad were Irish immigrants and Chinese immigrants, especially on the Central Pacific Railroad.
Wait, I hear voices and it's driving me crazy. Griffin, what's your ID number? What is it? 612. Kyle, what's yours?
488.
Okay, we'll keep going. So basically, as you can imagine, there was a labor shortage on the West Coast at this time to build the Central Pacific Railroad, and all the supplies, train cars, they had to be shipped from the East Coast. So it was really difficult and expensive at that time. Do you want to? Well, I'll leave this up for you. But basically, all the supplies from the East Coast, they need to be shipped all the way around the Horn of South America in order to get to the West Coast. Or else they could go to Panama. I mean, the Panama Canal wasn't built yet, but they could go to Panama, cross over land, and get to the West Coast that way. There was no railroad connecting. So if you wanted to get spikes, rail car, manpower, anything to the West Coast, it was really expensive and really difficult. So that's the reason why you had this influx of Chinese immigrants at this time, because it was cheaper to get work from China than it was to get workers from the East Coast. Next slide. So this is just a picture showing before the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad, how difficult it would be. So you'd have to start from here, ship goods all the way like that. And it was really expensive. Yeah, that was really expensive. So that was the need for the Transcontinental Railroad. What'd you say? How long did it take? Again, I don't know the exact number, but you have to say months. It'd be a long journey. It was not. So the Transcontinental Railroad was very important. Right, next slide. So I can't remember in the 5 minutes whether you got to learn about this. So this guy, Crazy Judah. None of this is that important. Like, you don't have to write. Just listen. So Crazy Judah, he was able to send.
Excuse me. Thank you.
That's all right. He was an engineer that was able to find a route through the. Somebody tell me the big mountain range on the west coast of California. Hannah. Tell board. Sierra Nevada Mountain. So at this time, I mean, the 5-minute video you saw, they had to pass through the Donner Pass. Nobody thought they could get through this. So this engineer, he was able to map a route to get through. Next slide, Gabriel. So the picture on the left here is Chinese immigrants working on the Transcontinental Railroad. The first influx of Chinese immigration came in between the 1840s to the 1850s. That was with the gold rush. It was an opportunity to make a lot of money, for more opportunities. The second and bigger influx of Chinese immigrants in the United States occurred at this time with the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. Between 10,000 and 15,000 immigrants came at this time. The map on the right-hand side, this is also just for your reference. This is where most of them came from in China. Has anybody heard of the city of Hong Kong? Does anyone know anything about Hong Kong?
They have a Disneyland.
They have a Disneyland? Has anyone been to Hong Kong? Have you been
What's
to
your hair?
Disneyland?
What's your
in Hong
hair?
Kong?
Oh, what's your hair?
Filipino.
Filipino?
It's like an hour away from China.
Yeah, it's like flight, right? It's pretty quick flight, yeah.
Were you going to say something? Yes.
Oh yeah, my cousins just got back from there. They lived there for 2 years.
That's interesting. Well, I'd love to go. This table over here, I need everyone's attention. So most of the immigrants were coming from this region where Hong Kong is. It was called Guangdong Province. And the reason they were coming is because, I mean, you can imagine, like, what would draw you to come to the United States? You're going to get paid low wages, you're going to face discrimination, you're going to have danger of job.
It's worse there.
That's exactly right. It's worse there. So what happened during the, between the early 1800s to the mid 1800s, there was a series of wars. And again, don't write this down, but they were called the Opium Wars. And basically they were attacked by England, and England sort of imposed ports on them. So the Qing dynasty that they lived under was super, super weak. People were poor, they were in poverty, they didn't have a lot of economic opportunity. So the people coming to the United States, they were looking for a better opportunity for their families and just to have a fresh start. Yeah, next slide. All right, go back one. All right. So again, this is our friend Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, like all the railroad tycoon. They were able to get land from the United States government through land grants. They were able to get rich at this time because they would, the federal government would give them this land, and then they were able to, for free, essentially, and then they were able to sell the lands around the railroads and make a lot of money. Yeah, you do. Oh, go back. Yeah, also at this time, there was not a lot of government, about the swindling investors, bribing officials, there was not a lot of government regulation at this time. So if you're a businessman, you could pretty much do whatever you wanted. It was sort of like the wild, wild west of business. So there was a lot of corruption, bribing. Gabriel.
So like, would there be instances like I know like the U.S. would pull Chinese immigrants into work for them, and they would also get rich and poverty, but how about like pushing them away?
So we're going to do an activity during class today. We're going to talk about things pushing them away because it really wasn't fair. Like they needed the Chinese immigrants to work the land, but at the same time, like a lot of other groups in United States history, they faced severe discrimination. So we'll learn a little bit about that today. But yeah, you're 100% right. Is it okay if I go to the next slide? Okay. So we're going to learn about one very, very important scandal. So the Credit Mobilizer scandal involved the Credit Mobilizer Company. And basically, this was a construction company that was given. Everybody okay?
Yes. No.
So it was basically it was set up by stockholders of the Union Pacific Railroad, and they would get. They had investors that were on the board of this construction company that were also in the United States Congress, were also in the U.S. government. So they would ask the U.S. government for money. How should I describe this? Basically, they would sign overpriced contracts to themselves. So, for instance, say the railroad only costed $20,000 to complete. If I was this guy on the right, this Oaks Ames, he was a congressman. He was also on the board of this company. So he would ask the federal government for $40,000. And $20,000 more than he needed. He would go back to Congress, vote on it. It would bankrupt the company. He'd be able to keep the money. So it's very corrupt. You had people in government that were working for both the companies so there was a conflict of interest. Yeah. Oh wait, go back. Go back. Yes.
Is it Mobilizer or
Mobilizer, and that's the name of the company.
No,
Credit Mobilizer. Oh, you're right. I forgot the Z up here.
Mobiler.
Yeah, that's spelled right. It's mobile. That's how it's
Oh, is it with the I?
Credit mobile.
Oh.
It's just there's supposed to be like a mobile.
So that's actually how it's spelled.
Yeah. That's how it's spelled.
Mobile.
So it's right in the like bullets, but not right.
Yeah, that's a good catch.
Good catch.
I think a few people are still writing. So can anyone think of a reason why this would be a problem? I mean,
Well, you get money from the government for yourself, but then the government's not gonna have money.
sorry, say it again?
If you keep taking money from the government for yourself, then the government's not gonna have any money, and they can't use it.
That's true. But basically, they were bankrupting the company on purpose, and then they would go to Congress. Say you worked for this company, you were also a congressperson. You would make the company lose money on purpose, pocket the money, and then go back to Congress where you also work and ask for more money. So it was Very, very corrupt. All right, I'm going to go on to the next slide. So the most important thing to take out of this period is the public now viewed all railroads and men as robber barons, and they began to mistrust politicians. In 1872, a story broke in the New York Sun newspaper that pretty much exposed all the corruption going on at this time. This was the biggest scandal in U.S. history. The guy on the right, he was not the president at the time, but he would soon be elected president, James Garfield. He was a member of Congress, and he was involved in this